All right, it's 10 o'clock, so let's get started. Good morning, hello, and welcome everyone to the 2023 Annual General Meeting of the Beneplan Employee Benefits Cooperative. My name is Alana, and I'm the Beneplan Executive Assistant. As we wait for quorum, so we can officially begin the AGM, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping items, which I have up here on the screen. So first thing is this meeting is being recorded for archival purposes. And there is a copy of the 2022 annual report that's been added to the chat bar for your convenience, and I will add it again shortly. You can find the 2022 minutes of the AGM in your appendix page 48 of the report. If you are a participant, your mics are set to mute. The only people who can speak are the hosts and the panelists who are running this webinar. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the chat bar or the question bar. We will be holding 6 votes throughout this meeting. Voting will happen through a poll that will pop up on your screen. Each item requires 2 motions before we can move it to a vote. Please motion to vote by typing in the chat bar. After each vote, we will share the voting results immediately after they happen. Please note that there's only 1 vote per member company allowed. Please ensure you know who from your company is voting. Also note that advisors and vendors are not permitted to vote unless their company is a member of the cooperative and they are the plan sponsor representative. Polls will be deemed to be passed if 50% or more respond with yes. So once we've reached quorum, we will ask for an official motion to begin the AGM, but until then, I would like to introduce Yafa Sakeja, who is the CEO of Beneplan.
Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to host the AGM. This is our 23rd annual general meeting since we founded the cooperative, and I actually can see some of the founding members of the cooperative on this call. So thank you, everybody, for coming together. It's always a great privilege and a great pleasure to serve this community. We're very grateful. We have 49 participants on this call so far, and that just tells us that we have 49 extremely engaged people of our community. We know it takes time out of your schedule to join one of these. And 2023 is starting to feel a little different from prior years, but this year's AGM feels a little bit like the AGM we had in 2009, because in 2009, I'll never forget, I went to visit one of our member companies, a trucking company, and we asked the controller, how's business? And without sugarcoating, he just said, business is bad. And that's very much the sentiment that we've heard from a lot of the members in 2022. We are still feeling that sentiment in 2023. And so I think the general shadow over this entire AGM is just the stark, real economic climate that we're living in. And let's all remember why we all came together. We came together, the whole cooperative came together to save money. The purpose of the cooperative is to save money first and foremost. Everything comes after that, but every dollar, our job is to put dollars back into your bank accounts. So that said, I do believe we have quorum now. So Elena, thank you for confirming the attendance. And I'd like to ask the chair of the board, George DePede, who is actually one of the founding members and the owner of CM DePede Group, to officially ask for a motion to open the meeting.
Good morning. As Yafa said, my name is George DePede, and I have the pleasure of being the chair of the cooperative. I am one of the founding members, and makes me feel old, but very proud to be part of the founding members of this excellent organization. And so therefore, I understand we have quorum, so may I now turn your attention to the agenda in front of you. Do we have any requests from anybody to add to the agenda? So if we don't have any requests, may I ask everyone to please vote on the acceptance of the AGM to start the AGM for 2023 as presented.
That is majority.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. May I now turn your attention to the minutes from the 2022 AGM. They can be found on appendix page 48 of the 2022 annual report.
So these are the minutes as presented.
And if there are any requests to change the minutes, please leave a comment in our chat bar. Give everyone a second. If not, may I please have a motion from the audience to accept the minutes?
I see 2 shows of hands.
Okay, excellent. So can we please vote on accepting the AGM 2022 minutes as presented?
Okay, that is majority.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. So now I'd like to introduce the 2022-2023 board members who have worked to govern the cooperative over the last year or so. And I'm going to start by apologizing if I make a few errors in the names. I'm going to do my very best. I'll start with myself, George DePede, and as you know, I'm the chair of the board, and I'm also on the finance committee. Emma Horgan is our chair of the governance committee. George Zenny, Nick Moschella, Bruno Sharipa, Tim Otten, Courtney Cebu, who is on our governance and finance committee, Neelish Pol, who is in the finance committee and governance committee, Dr. Anurag Sinha, who is the vice chair of the board, Diane Getaustis, who is on our governance committee, Laura Shaka, who's the board treasurer and the chair of our finance committee, and finally, Arun Shrivastava, one of our board members. I want to thank all the board members for all their hard work over the last year and look forward to continuing working together over the next course of the year. I would now like to introduce Aaron Brooks, who is the group administration team leader at Beneplan, who will speak further on the importance of the board and to introduce the nominations we have received for new board members. Aaron, take it away.
Good morning. Thanks, George. So the Beneplan Board of Directors plays a really vital role in guiding the actions of the cooperative. Each year, this group dedicates their time and their expertise, and for that, we say a huge thank you. With their support, we can ensure that Beneplan remains aligned with the best interest of our members and that we are maintaining the highest level of integrity in the process. The board is responsible for consulting and making decisions with the input of the Beneplan management on many important issues facing the cooperative, including oversight and approval of our annual report, the allocation of cooperative funds, and many other important management items that come up throughout the year. They also provide management with guidance on any future plans and opportunities from the perspective of an outsider to the day-to-day workings of Beneplan. We truly appreciate their perspective as members of the cooperative and as business leaders. We would like to take a special moment to thank the following board members whose term is expiring for their time over the last year. So Emma Horgan is the chair of our governance committee, retiring this year. Nick Moschella, retiring this year. Courtney Cebu, governance committee and finance committee. Tim Otten, and Arun Srivastava. I would now like to present the members who have been nominated to join the incoming board and give them each a moment to introduce themselves. First off is Daniel Copeland, Director of HR Business Partners, People and Culture at Questrade Financial Group.
So I just wanted to say good morning and thank you to Yafa and the board for having me this morning. It seems like a fantastic group to join and contribute to. Just a little bit about myself. I've been an HR professional for nearly 20 years now in a variety of different industries, including hospitality, financial services, and now in fintech. So, people and more specifically cultures of organizations are really important to me, and I'm really passionate about really all facets of HR. So happy to and excited to contribute where I can. Outside of work, you could find me with my 7-year-old son, Nolan, and my 10-year-old dog, Hudson. And again, really looking forward to potentially joining and really contributing to the board where possible.
Our second nominee is Shane Penny. He's the CEO of Springdale Retirement Living Inc., which is an assisted living facility.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. My name is Shane Penny, as mentioned. I am the owner-operator of retirement facilities located in Newfoundland. First and foremost, I'm a family man. I'm a husband, a dad. I've got 2 bio kids, 1 long-term placed foster child on his way to permanency, and we have others in and out of our house at various times throughout the year. We have a dog, And I spend a lot of time, obviously, I'm a very busy dad, but I'm also a very busy owner operator and managing things. I've been at this for many years. My journey started in computer science, actually. So I affectionately refer to myself as one of those propeller head geeks in the corner that wasn't allowed to talk to people, but fortunately they've let me out of the closet. So and now I've moved on. So that's many years ago. And here we are. Thank you for the opportunity to join.
Thank you so much, Shane. So because we do have more vacancies than we have applicants this year, you will all both be joining the board by acclamation at this time. Thank you again so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Aaron. So I guess there's no need for a vote. So I'd like to thank both Shane and Daniel. Looking forward to having you join our committee and our group and our board. And I'm also a dog person, so we got lots, and a father, we got lots in common. Let's move on to, oh, did I miss, I'm missing a page. Am I introducing Yafa? Is that where we're
Yes.
at right now?
Yes, you are.
Thank you, Len, I apologize.
That's all right.
As many of you know, she's one of the backbones of our group at Beneplan, along with every other staff member, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Yafa. Go ahead, Yafa, it's all yours.
Thanks, George, and welcome, Daniel and Shane. It's definitely going to be a pleasure to work with you both. Just before I touch on the management report, I just want to say if anyone on the call is considering joining the board, but you're being held back, we do have a couple vacancies here. I promise that while it's a volunteer board, because you're member owners of this financial cooperative, we promise that it's very, very worth your time financially. However, we also strive as the management company to do all of the legwork for you as much as possible. I just want to touch on the fact that the governance committee did a self-evaluation poll this year, and they did note that while we have some very good engagement with board members, they would like to see us push for more engagement with board members. So we're definitely willing to talk to you on a mid-year basis. If you wanted to let us know who you are, we can provide that application to current board members, and the board is allowed to appoint somebody to the board on a mid-calendar year basis. So wanted to say that it's incredibly important that we have strong accountability on our board. We need other Canadian leaders. This is a financial services intermediary. That's a big deal. And in Canada, while we are governed by our regulators and we're governed by the CRA, it's so critical because this is a financial cooperative that the members are aware of what's happening with the money, where is the money, who are the people involved. We're also really grateful that today on the call, we have Sean Wilson and Karen Lee, who represent the auditors of the cooperative. So they form another critical role of going through all of the financials. So you can see here on the financial statements highlight that it wasn't a great year. However, let's remember that very much like the Buddhist statements that this is not good, this is not bad, this is just neutral. So as a reminder, while the dividend this year is 1.69 million, just shy of 1.7 million, which is lower from what it was last year and the previous years, let's remember that the goal of the cooperative is not to produce a refund. The goal of the cooperative is to drive costs down as much as possible. In fact, I humbly think we probably didn't rate health and dental rates as high as inflation dramatically pushed claims up. As you can see on the bottom of the financial statements highlights, 104 members out of close to 400 members were in deficit. That's a massive number of companies. That's almost 1 in 4 companies that were in a deficit. And so, yes, there are years where we have fewer folks in deficit, like we saw 2020 during the lockdowns. The dividend was $6 million. That is an unusual black swan event, but I have so much empathy for all of you leaders on the call who are running businesses, because it seems like we just have black swan event after black swan event. I mean, the whole war in Russia and the Ukraine and interest rates, all of that really affects how even Canadian benefit plans are affected. And I want to talk about inflation as a huge driver for some of these results. So you're going to be seeing that inflation is pushing the cost up of dental services. For example, we know that the Ontario Dental Association, 96% of our members are in Ontario, so forgive me for using Ontario, but we are cross-country. So the Ontario Dental Fee Guide increased by almost 10% this year, and we saw that across other provinces. The fee guide usually increases by 3.5%, but if you actually look really deeper into all of the codes, it's almost like an encyclopedia. It's this very thick, I guess it's digital now. We used to literally get the fee guide sent to our office, but within those codes, if the whole average of that entire book is a 10% increase, if you actually look code by code, the most frequently claimed codes, which are scaling and cleaning and x-rays, would have increased by a lot higher than 10%. Some of them increased by 15 or 20%. And the most least claimed items maybe only increased by 0.5%. So while they're promoting that the fee guide has increased by 10%, there's actually a ton of wage inflation and input costs that is affecting that. Now, as a group buying power, we don't just accept that lying down. We want to tell you about some of the things that our organization is doing to fight back as much as possible. So while you are receiving renewals with higher than normal increases on dental and even on health because of the increased costs, buying power is so critical. So the three things that we're doing is, number one, our industry peer group, TPAC, it's called the Third Party Administrators Association of Canada. You can Google TPAC if you'd like, you can see all the other members. And while those are, for the most part, competitors, what we do is we work together as one group representing millions of Canadians, not just Beneplan's 35,000, but millions of Canadians who go through financial intermediaries other than insurance companies. And one of the things we're doing is we're collaborating with the CLHIA. CLHIA stands for Canadian Life and Health Insurers Association of Canada. So that means all of the insurance companies in Canada that provide health benefits, all the big ones, the big brands. So now we're collaborating as an industry to actually talk to the Ontario Dental Association and the entire associations across the country. And the message we're going to say to them, and we have consistently said, is that this is not something that can happen every year. If you think that we're going to accept this year because it came fast and furious, we didn't have much time to react, given how quickly interest rates have risen, how quickly wage inflation and input costs have risen, we are, as an industry, pushing back. Now, do we ever want to collaborate with our competitors? Not necessarily, but in this sliver, it's important that we're clear. We're not sharing any confidential information. We're not sharing any private data. We're not sharing any trade secrets. It's just using our collective buying power with millions of Canadians to push back. So that's one of the things that we're doing. The second thing that we're really looking at is, with respect to inflation, it's really important to understand what's underpinning the inflation. So if you scroll down, Elena, part of the management report is talking about the drugs that are pushing up the cost of care. The biggest drug that we see is the most popular one is this one called Ozempic. If you've heard of Ozempic, you might have heard from friends and family, or if you read celebrity news, you might see that half of the celebrities in Hollywood are on Ozempic. Ozempic, to be clear, is a drug that is prescribed for diabetes. It is not prescribed for weight loss purposes. However, it is not that difficult to find a physician to help prescribe this drug for weight loss purposes, even if you don't have diabetes. So Ozempic suddenly has popped up as the number 2 claimed drug. And guess what? Ozempic can cost $10,000 a year per person. And so while I think it's great that people are losing weight, $10,000 a year per employee and maybe even per person in the family scares me as a business owner. It scares me because, I'm sorry to say this, walking is free. And again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. I don't want to pretend to think about what people are going through. If you're on Ozempic, absolutely, I'm sure there's a very legitimate reason why you're on it. But just even in my own personal circles, I'm finding people that don't have any comorbidities, don't have diabetes. I'm a working mom, and would I like to lose a few pounds? For sure. I'm hearing other working moms are saying, oh, I just got a prescription and I'm on Ozempic and my sister's on it. It's amazing. I lost 10 pounds so far. And I'm just like, wow, okay. So we talked to our insurance company, say, well, how are you stopping people from claiming these expensive drugs when that's the number 2 drug that the cooperative is paying for, what are you doing? So the good news is Green Shield has a prior authorization process where they do ask to see you have to actually have diabetes and prove that you have diabetes. The other insurers, however, don't have a stringent process. So that is troublesome. The other more troublesome thing, and I don't want to put fear mongering, but I think it's extremely important that you all understand with eyes open where your dollars are going. So when your premiums are being paid, there are other drugs that are going to hit the market in 2023 and 2024. One of them is called Wegovy. I can't remember the name of the other one, but they're actually approved for obesity, not for diabetes. And so when I ask insurance companies, how do you define obesity? Like, if my BMI is 30, which it was after I gave birth, does that count as obesity? And does that mean that I get to now spend $10,000 per year of my employer's money to lose weight? So it's critical. I know a lot of you are busy running businesses. Sometimes we will send you reports, quarterly reports, renewal reports. You don't end up reading it. I think it's important if you ask your advisor, I just want to see what's going on in my plan. Can we talk about what's under the hood? Because setting the precedent today for the future 10 years, you want to nip some of that stuff in the bud. I'm not saying, hey, don't cover this. I'm just saying be aware, and you need to do some soul searching yourself to understand how much are you willing to contribute to this. If as an organization, you want people to lose weight, that's phenomenal. Think about what is your maximum and how much do you think it's fair for the employee to contribute? Because without this, with silence, it's going to default to what the insurers will do. And we love our insurers, but they're paid a percentage of claims. So they're not necessarily incentivized and motivated as much as we are and you are to say, well, what are we doing to drive the costs down? I mean, I don't want to beat them up too much. They're doing their job. They're doing their job well. Otherwise, we wouldn't work with them. But, you know, reading the fine print is so important. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is just the stark reality of how many Canadians have now joined or walk into food banks. So I was reading the Daily Bread Food Bank annual report, the 2022 annual report. And some of the statistics I just want to share are, for every $30 a month increase in expenses for Canadians, it increases in just the GTA alone 73,776 people to use the food bank. So for every $30 per month increase in expenses, it's 73,000 new people, including children, that go to food banks. We saw that in 2022, the Daily Bread Food Bank saw that in June 2022, it was almost triple the prior year in terms of number of people looking for food at food banks. So the prior year, they saw 60,000 people just in the GTA who visited food banks. Last year, it was 171,000 people. So that is the reality of not just the economy, but when we look at our block of business, about a third of them are minimum wage population. And they're they're vulnerable population in that, $1 increase in minimum wage is tremendously expensive for some employers. Some employers might say, hey, that costs us millions of dollars and that really impacts us. But at the same time, these are maybe some of the people who are on your benefit plan, and why we saw so many deficits in 2022. It's not just the inflation in input costs and wage inflation, it's increase in usage. So with layoffs, and we saw this in 2001, we saw this in 2008, 2009, we're seeing it again now. Layoffs will push companies in deficits. And the reason why layoffs push companies in deficits is because you are entitled, or you are required, if you're doing a termination with no cause, to extend benefits during the notice period, which is usually 1 week per year of service. It could be more depending upon the size of your company or depending upon the tenure of that individual. So let's say at minimum, there's 1 to 2 extra weeks that drug card works. And a drug card is effectively a credit card. It's a credit card. It's a little card that allows people to receive money direct deposited in their bank account if they find a receipt, claim a receipt legitimately or illegitimately, put it through the web portal and the web portal pays them back that money. So when layoffs happen, I just want you all to be aware. It's possible that you can't avoid layoffs, and we support you with that, but you really need to be mindful that when that happens, that will cause an event where that person will be motivated to make sure that they're going to the dentist or the physio or the pharmacist before their benefits termination date is up in good faith. Now, there's also maybe 10 to 20% of usage, which is bad faith usage. Bad faith usage meaning, and you all are aware of this, but buying a receipt from somebody who supplies orthotics when no orthotics have actually changed hands. There are lots of these organized rackets. I'll just say it. There are rackets that literally try, their full-time job is to defraud insurance companies, and they don't realize that you're really defrauding mostly small and medium businesses. So if you're concerned about this, if you know that a large amount of layoffs are coming, just talk to your benefits advisor and say, hey, this is something that's going to happen. What can we do together to manage the costs? Because the last thing that Beneplan wants to do is to serve you up an increase in premium at the following renewal. That is very painful for us to serve up as well, because we recognize that it's very difficult. So, this $30 a month statistic that I referenced earlier is very meaningful, because when we look at the long-term disability benefit, Elena, if you want to scroll down to the page where we talk about long-term disability, we have been hitting our carriers very hard and aggressively for long-term disability. About 50% of you on the call today participate in long-term disability, so it's not even relevant to you. But the other 50% who do have employees that pay into long-term disability will find that rates have been going up consistently for the last 5 or 6 years. And it has been going up to the point where some companies and employees are saying, I can't afford to pay this. I mean, and $30 is often the premium for long-term disability. So if that gets pushed up by 10%, that extra $3, and if that happens every year, we now have a problem, because by our inability to negotiate with insurance companies and beat that down, we have to be aware that we could potentially be asking people to visit a food bank. So let's be really clear about what our responsibility is at Beneplan. Our responsibility is to drive those costs down. So some of the things that we've done as a management company in 2022 to push that down is, number one, hey, the fact that interest rates have gone up, while that can be a bad thing for many people and a bad thing for many businesses, it's actually a really good thing and a way that we can push disability rates down. So we've actually hired an actuary. This actuary used to work at insurance companies setting long-term disability rates. So now he's an independent contractor, and we've hired him on retainer, and he's fabulous at going through all of the math, all of the reserves, and he's working employer side now on behalf of Beneplan clients to negotiate with insurance companies. And so he has been effective at reducing. So, I can go on some of the minutes of the board meetings in 2022, if you really want to see all of that detail is there. But some of the highlights of what we've been able to do with this actuary is push the fees down that the insurer pays as a bundle of the premium, recontract so that the insurer now has to sign to pay a much higher interest rate, credit higher interest rates to the cooperative, especially in the reserves. And also we have hired in the past a claims manager, and this claims manager goes into the insurance company, pulls files on a privacy basis, doesn't tell us anything to do with the medical, but will hold the insurance company accountable to say, hey, you paid this person for long-term disability, but can you tell me why? Because the evidence here could suggest maybe an earlier gradual return to work plan. I want to be very honest and blunt with all of you. Just as we've all seen the change of labor and the labor shortage across industries, there is a real labor shortage with long-term disability case managers. It's happening across all insurance companies. And so therefore, if you're finding pain and frustration with your insurance company because you want maybe more frequent updates on the cases for people on disability, or you're wondering what's happening with this person, are they coming back? Are they not coming back? How are we retraining them? Just know that you're not alone. we know that all insurance companies that we work with have had a lot of churn and change in the case manager role. That those case managers are susceptible to burnout, just like anybody else. They're dealing with very sick individuals all the time. People who are on disability have very complicated files, and there's a lot to dive into. So this is one of the realities of what we're dealing with, but we have still hired a separate claims auditor to hold accountability there. The other thing that we do is we hold every 2 months, bi-monthly, we'll have a meeting with the disability case managers on our entire block. And we'll take, let's say, 15 random certificate numbers, and we'll say, can you give us an update on what's happening there? And we find that when we hold those accountability calls, there's always a lot of work that the insurer does in the week leading up to that call. So they're doing their homework. And we find that more rapid cases are happening. So we're going to suggest this year that we increase that cadence to maybe monthly. Hopefully the insurance company will oblige us. And then finally, I do want to touch on, if you don't have any disability products in place at all, you're still impacted by the EI premium, the EI change from 4 months to 6 months. So if you're not sure how this affects you, please talk to your benefits advisor. It's always not a bad idea to look at the EI premium reduction program, see if you're eligible for that discount. It's about $3,900 per million of payroll, and see if that's something that you're able to talk to your advisor about to save money. Then I think the next thing is finally the update from management's perspective on our partnership with Navicord. So it is our goal and mandate to use buying power to push costs down as much as possible. We have just passed a decade really of consolidation in the insurance market. And we find that while we have a large block, all of the consolidation happening in our industry is now driving buying power in the hands of 4 or 5 large consolidators. So that said, Beneplan did make a partnership with Navicord in 2022. Just to be clear, this is Beneplan Inc, the management company, not the cooperative. The cooperative ownership is with all of you. And one of the key reasons we did that is because we need to leverage buying power. Navicord has over $1 billion of premium coast to coast. And so we've already been able to positively use their brand and their negotiating buying power on some of these key items. The long-term disability was one of them. When we were in a discussion with the insurance company on signing a new contract, some of the influence that Navicord helped and coached us through really helped to turn that around and to sign a contract with lower fees and higher interest rates credited to that product. So that's helping us. And then finally, and then I'll pass it on to the next panelist to discuss the financials. But finally, I think it's really important that you talk to your advisor. Our advisors are phenomenal. When we look at the ROI of how much dividend or refund people get back over and above the savings of premiums, divided by the fees that you're paying for your intermediary or your distributor, it's always a positive. So it was 1.5% and 1.5 times an ROI, meaning that for every dollar you are putting into your premiums to compensate the distribution channel, you're getting $1.5 back in terms of savings on a dividend basis. So that said, I appreciate everyone listening. It's my 11th year presenting the AGM. And so that's why I want other members and other leaders of our team to present some of this. So just want to check the chat bar for any questions before we move on. Let me just see in the chat if there are any Q&As. Okay, I don't see any open questions. So that said, I'd now like to invite Chin Lin. She is the head of underwriting at Beneplan to introduce the 2022 financial statements. After that, we also have a Q&A session, and S&C partners or auditors on the call if there's any questions about the financial statements.
Thank you, Yafa, and good morning, everyone. Alena, thank you. So we start with a statement of income and accumulated surplus. For year 2022, the total surpluses from the carrier are 1.74 million, a decrease of 891,000 compared to year 2021. Total expense increased slightly due to the publication and in-person meeting costs. There's no growth incentive payout for the year because no advisor met the minimum threshold of 300K of net new premium within the fiscal year. More detail can be found from the financial notes 7 and 9. The final pitch dividends are 1.69 million. Alena, please turn to next page. For the balance sheet statements, the total assets are 2.26 million, includes cash equivalents, account payables, which are account receivable, which are surplus from the insurance carrier. The restricted cash is the health and dental reserve held by the cooperative. The total liability are 1.88 million, includes account payable and accrual liability and privilege dividends payouts. Alena, please turn to next page for the statement of change in health and dental reserve. The reserve fund at the beginning of the year is 426,770. The new contribution to reserve from the surplus is 74,952. Net reserve from the terminated member forfeited to cover their deficit is 62,080. The net contribution to the reserve is 12,872. The total health and dental reserve at the end of the year is 386,032, which is held by the cooperative. Anela, if you can please turn to page 41 of the annual report for notes, financial notes number 6. The total surpluses withheld by the insurance carrier are 808,295 as a reserve are not recognized as an asset of the cooperative. Therefore, the total health and dental reserve, including the non-recognized portion, is almost 1.2 million. Thank you so much for having me to report on the financials. And if you have any question on the financial statements, please write your question in the chat bar and we will address them one at a time. Thank you again.
Thanks, Chin. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I just wanted to note that with interest rates being so high now, the board has voted to ask the insurers to pay that $800,000 back to the cooperative. Okay, Ian Torrance has a question. Is the reserve held by insurers receiving interest? Thank you, Ian, for asking this question. I love our engaged members. So the short answer is with Green Shield, no, there's no interest. With cooperators, it was very small. It was 2%. And I remember, Ian, when you were on the board, we talked about some of the interest crediting, especially on the surplus, because the surplus in 2023 sits in the hands of the insurance company almost for half a year. And so every day that we're not earning, I say we, but it's the royal we, the cooperative. Every day the cooperative is not earning interest on either that refund or that $800,000 reserve is money lost. So we've given a heads up to the board to say, SNC Partners has calculated the tax that would be payable, because if the reserve is paid back from the insurance companies back to the cooperative, over which the board has governance over, not management. The board has signing authority. Management does not have signing authority over that bank account. But the cooperative will have to recognize that as tax, and as income or profit. And Sean Wilson, do you want to talk about some of the exercises we went through this year to make sure that we're minimizing the tax payable, but also maximizing the interest income credited to the cooperative?
Sure, yeah. So what we had looked at was the total amount of reserves that are held outside the cooperative. As Yafa mentioned, as those come back into the cooperative, they are subject to tax first at CRA. The one advantage that the cooperative has is it has its own small business deduction, similar to the way your businesses would. So depending on how quickly that income is brought into the cooperative, would influence the tax rate that is applied to those funds. If it's brought in, say, over 2 years, the total reserve would likely be taxed at only the small business rate in each year. If it was to be brought in all at once, the cooperative would have the benefit of having those funds in its hands sooner for its own use. But the cost of doing that is the tax rate would be slightly higher, as the income in that year would be higher than the small business deduction.
So do we have any questions or chat? Any questions at all? Alana, I don't see anything.
I don't see any other questions or anything in the chat.
So can I now have a motion to accept the financial statements as presented?
And you can put your motion in the chat, or you could just raise your hand. I see two motions, so.
Great. Do we have a seconder? We'll use one of the motions as a seconder. So can we now vote on the acceptance of the financial statements as presented and empower the incoming finance committee to appoint a new auditor for the 2023 fiscal year? Great. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. And thank you to Chin and everyone on the financial work. Excellent job. And I'd like to turn over to Alana.
All right, thank you, everyone. I would now actually like to introduce Joel Gomez, who is the VP of People and Operations here at Beneplan, to tell you a bit more about our upcoming HR conference and member appreciation lunch.
Most of you are aware of me. I'm the HR consultant at Beneplan, and we've hosted our HR conference, which I think quite a few might have attended in the past. And we typically have that in November, but in the interest of time as well as utilization of resources for our members, we will be hosting our annual, returning to hosting the annual HR conference on May the 2nd this year, and we're going to coupling it with a client appreciation lunch. It's going to be hosted at the National Club again, May the 2nd at 10 a.m. So for all of our members, this is complimentary. So if you haven't done so already, please register yourself. And you can do that by simply emailing Alana. The last day to register is April the 26th, which I believe is is tomorrow, actually. You can email her at ea@beneplan.ca, and she'll ensure that you get a seat, get on the list, and then she'll send you event details as well. So this year, we're going to have two speakers. I'll be presenting the highlights of our HR consultancy, key areas of focus and takeaways. And we also will be having a special guest speaker, Keith Burkhardt. He's an employment lawyer from an employment labor law firm, Sherrard Coos, and he'll be doing an overview of the employment landscape in Ontario, Canada, in general, of course, across the country. And you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of him and get them answered directly as well. So spread the news. It is going to be a fun event. Apart from all the serious stuff, there's going to be, food, free food. You get to connect with fellow business leaders who are part of the Beneplan family. And then I believe Alana is arranging for prizes as well, and there's going to be a raffle. So I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you at the HR conference. Again, the registration deadline is tomorrow. So please email Alana at ea@beneplan.ca. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joel. Looking forward to that event. I'm sure it's going to be great. I see there was a chat question. I think that was answered, correct?
That's correct, it was.
Excellent. So now I'd like to open the floor to any additional questions. Again, please type them in the chat bar or in the Q&A. We'll give everyone a few minutes to navigate that. While we're waiting for that, and I just would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the board, on behalf of myself, to thank everybody on the board, first and foremost, and to our outgoing members. This is our volunteer positions and we're all busy, but thank you to the board members who've served. And again, welcome those new ones. And a special thank you to the Beneplan team, the management team, everybody in general. They're doing a great job. And considering we did come out of a pandemic and uncharted waters, to come out on top, I think is a is a kudos to the Beneplan team and everyone on the cooperative. So thank you. And a special thank you to Alana for making all this happen today. Without her, I don't think we would have managed. So do we have any questions? No?
Nope, it looks like we've answered all of them.
Okay.
Oh, wait, one moment,
Oh,
please. There is
perfect.
one from Tim. Is the change in elimination period for EI, are we seeing a reduction in the LTD rates at all?
And do you want to take that one?
Yes. So if any client wanted to reduce to increase the elimination period, yes, send a request to the brokers and then they will reach out to my team. So we'll get the rate reduction request from the insurance carrier. It really depends on each group. So it can range 5 to 10% reduction, but on average for now, we're seeing 5% reduction on the LTD rate.
Okay.
Question?
Thank you for that. Let's give everyone another 30 seconds or so to see if there's any more questions. Always great to see questions being asked. Okay, I guess not seeing any more. Could I now?
There is one
look
more.
at that. Perfect.
From Ian. What is new at Beneplan Inc?
Okay, I'll answer that, and then I will actually ask Erin Brooks to piggyback on that answer. We have been leaning into technology very much. And so one of the things that we implemented in 2022 was a brand new ticketing system. I'm really proud of Erin and her team because when we introduced the ticketing system, I'll be honest, we had over 1,500 tickets coming in that needed addressing. So we increased staffing in our admin team. We doubled the staffing. We thought about tripling it, but the team now on the doubling basis is doing well. And Erin, do you want to tell us how our tickets are looking now?
Yeah, so we are on a rolling average sitting between 50 and 70 tickets on a daily basis. So perfectly reasonable number for the number of team members we have. And that includes anything that is pending from carriers, pending from questions for our member clients. So it really is a significant improvement, and hopefully everybody's seeing a decrease in the response time from us, which is great. And the ticketing system is allowing us to group all of the information in one place so it's findable by any member of staff who might have it come up later on or elsewhere.
We have another question, it looks like. Oh, we answered it.
Yes, that notification was for the previous question.
Okay.
So, does the daily, oh wait, 1 second, sorry, my apologies. Just checking the chat.
So yeah, one question on the $30 per month statistics resulting in food bank participation. What was the source? So Jeff, the source was the Daily Bread Food Bank Annual Report 2022. So if you go to their website, go to their annual reports, it's halfway through the document there.
Thank you, Yaffa. We have another question. Awesome.
The service ticketing system has helped tremendously in my experience. Thank you to the team for all their support.
Thank you, Sam, for that.
And we have one more question. Has the Beneplan new partnership created any growth in the broker network?
Yes, so it has allowed Beneplan to just speak to more advisors about the product. These things do take time. We're very much in a relationship business. Trust is very critical in insurance. So that is happening. I know Joel and Vince are working on bringing on a new team member, a new team lead, who will be the director of the broker wholesaling division. So Joel, do you want to touch on that a little bit as to what we're looking for, if anyone has anyone in their network?
Yes, so we are looking, as Yaffa said, for a broker relationship manager. So the purpose of this person, once they get hired, will be twofold. One is to take care of our existing broker relationships that we currently have with some of the big brokerage houses across the GTA, and for that matter, across the country. The second function will be to grow that function, so expand those relationships to seek out and establish new ones across the network. And as Yafa said, this kind of stuff does take a bit of time in terms of establishing the relationship, establishing the trust, and then, of course, turning that into revenue over the long term. But we do have a strategy in place, and we hope to execute that in the next 2 quarters.
Another question?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, it's a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. That's great. I'm glad we're all participating. Seeing as there are no more, Lana, am I correct? No more?
That is correct. Nothing in the chat. No more questions.
So can I have a motion? Oh, we have one more.
Sorry, very quickly.
Okay.
Pauline had asked if there's going to be a vote to bring the reserve back, or how do we proceed with that? So Colleen, the board has already voted at the board level, and so now management is executing that plan. And the goal is to put those funds in the highest interest-bearing account on a cash flow basis.
Thank you, Yafa, again.
Sorry,
So
I'm just going to do a, sorry, George, just going to do a shameless plug here. So we talked about the broker relationship. We closed the posting last week, and I'm reviewing resumes this week and next week. So if any of you who are attending this call or extended network, if you know of any good candidates who would make a good candidate for the role, right, frankly, feel free to send us a note, hr@beneplan.ca, forward a resume, and we'd be happy to explore that as well. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Joel. So can we now have a motion to adjourn the AGM, again, via chat, Q&A, or hands?
We have a first and a seconder.
Perfect. Can we put up the voting, please, to adjourn the 2023 AGM?
And has passed, and vote has passed.
Excellent. So thank you again, everyone, for participating. Thank you again to the management team. Thank you again to the board. Everyone, please be safe, and hope to see you all soon. And please, let's attend the meet and greet as best as we can. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.